How dumb can you be?
But, Betty,
Don't you dare call me by my name, scum.
I'm hated by my mother-in-law, although she is a mother of my love. When I lost my parents, I swore to love my in-laws. On the contrary to my promise, my relationship with Betty is not going well. Editing. And if anything, it's only causing pain. I wonder how this started. I didn't get married to spend my life away, bullied by my mother-in-law, but I can't stand up to her because I'm mentally reaching my limit. What saved me is the appearance of an unexpected person. My name is Maya, 28 years old. I graduated from a state university nursing degree and followed in her mother's footsteps as a nurse. Growing up, watching her work in the hospital, I dreamed of helping many patients one day. I had good knowledge of medicine, so my friends often consulted me about their health issues. On one occasion, I gave first aid to a passenger who had collapsed on the train and called an ambulance. It was all thanks to my mother's streak of justice that I inherited. It was my belief that if someone was in trouble, I didn't hesitate to give assistance. My mother suddenly passed away due to an attack. In a single-parent household, my mom was more important to me than anything. I couldn't even begin to repay her for raising me single-handedly. When I found the job, I thought I would be able to win her back slowly. Just then, she was gone. After my mother died, I hated even though I thought about quitting so many times, I still love it so much. In the end, I didn't quit because of the workload or the stress. It was Ken, my husband. When I just started working, he was outpatient. He was somewhat easy to talk to, and I could interact with him without feeling self-conscious. He didn't have any major illnesses, worked in our favor too. He was light-hearted and gentle, yet dependable. Eventually, he asked me for my number, and we started seeing each other on a regular basis. We got married after 2 years of dating. I got a new family after I had been without my own. I was losing hope, but his presence gave me the courage to try again. However, the marriage wasn't all happy. I was bothered by something right after I started my new life. The cause of my trouble was my mother, Betty. She was far out from the mother figure she had imagined. Initially, Ken and I were living in his apartment. About 2 weeks into our honeymoon, we paid a surprise visit. She told me
I'm not feeling so well these.
I was obliged to listen because I was relying on me as a nurse.
oh no, what's exactly wrong?
Not really about my health, but I'm concerned about my living situation. My husband and I are alone, so I worry about anything happening.
Well, when you need help, you can, me.
But maybe we'll get better at calling it.
I'm not sure what you mean by edit here.
Then she gave me a bright smile and unexpected words.
So, Maya, let's live together.
It was such a sudden request that I know how to reply. She continued talking cheerily while just flabbergasted.
You're a nurse, so I feel safe when happens.
Wait, what?
No. I'm not telling you to move, but I'm not getting younger, so it's sooner than later.
I see.
You will be freed from paying rent. It better for you too. Please think about it.
She left looking satisfied. Since then, I have received numerous calls from her asking about the move. I thought about consulting Kent, but he happened to be in the middle of peak season at work and didn't seem to have time to discuss an important matter. Just as I was contemplating, he appeared.
Well, my mom told me that you want to move in with her sometimes.
Really?
She sounded quite happy about it. She said she felt safe with you by her side.
Wait a minute.
She's getting carried away with her own of.
We both work, so I think I bad idea. Your housework will be lighter. You
He had a point. Having a double income was financially beneficial, but the chores became poor. I often had no energy to cook dinner or work, so I prepared TV dinners or had take. Ken always said he didn't mind, but skeptical. Once I started thinking about it, more and more concerns piled up in her mind. I came to think that it might be best if he stayed with his in-laws. As a result, I reluctantly agreed to request. Thus, just 2 months after our marriage, we started living with my in-laws. At first, Betty treated me kindly.
Thank you so much for moving in with us. Thank you for being such a wonderful daughter-in-law. I'll take up the chores so you can your work now.
That being said, part of me expected life was going to be easier. But in reality, instead of becoming what awaited me was living in hell. Just 1 week after I moved in, her toward me took a drastic turn. She began discreetly bullying me.
Hey, Maya, are you really going to me for all housework?
I don't intend to.
I do cleaning and washing on my days.
Who do you think you are? Isn't it a little unfair you being her daughter-in-law?
No, I don't mean to.
It's obvious you put everything or shoulders. I'm not here to make friends. I'm here to make money. And if you think that's sneaky, well, too bad.
My mouth was agape to hear such a thing from her. Who said all the housework was going to be taken care of in the first place? Since then, I tried to help her as could. I prepared breakfast and did laundry before going to work. If I get off work on time, I'll cook. Every time it was for Ken, Betty, and my father-in-law, the four of us. I had come to regret that my life with Ken alone was so much better. As a nurse, my days off were random. Ken was a normal office worker, so our days off coincided only a few months. I was off on a weekday and planned for the first time in a while that I finished the chores and went to F in the living room.
Hey, Betty, maybe out for a bit.
What? Where do you think you're going?
Just going to a mall. I have to buy a birthday present for my colleague. I'll be back soon.
All of a sudden, Betty turned red.
What the hell did you say? Going shopping? You got a nerve for a daughter-in-own?
Once she became hysterical, it was control. She lost her temper and lashed out her personal point of view.
It's not fair that you get to go on vacation while I have to work. You can't even do your chores right. And you think you deserve to go out? If you have time to hang around, get housework,
She showed such a temperament only of me. She was so gentle with her husband, Ken. Gradually, her hostility escalated, and she even began to complain about. I was pressured to quit my job just 4 months after moving in with her. When I spoke to Ken about my resignation, he seemed concerned, but I still couldn't tell him what was wrong. I only said that I was worn out and break, to which he agreed. I loved my challenging job, but I was mentally exhausted that I couldn't face my work properly. It was all a ploy by Betty. The next thing I knew, she was controlling all aspects of my life. Was I going to let her dominate me? Although I struggled, she showed her only when we were alone. I planned to record her bullying but I got too nervous when it came to it, and it didn't work out in the end. One day, she informed me. That was the day she told me.
Can you hold on and think for a minute?
I hastily tried to change her mind.
It's too crazy to prepare for a baby shower now.
what's crazy? You go and get a big cake and start cooking?
But I'm not sure if it's a good idea to use this method.
Hush, you jobless skank. You're my do what I tell you. I already have invited my friends.
She cheerfully changed into her workout clothes and began putting on a lot of makeup. If her friends were coming, failure was not an option even more than us. I hurried out to buy a cake and to supermarket. She then rushed back to prepare sandwiches and decorate the cake. When all was ready, Betty's friends showing up, I was about to open the front door, them in.
Stop. Don't you show your face to friends, okay?
But I should at least greet them.
No need for a greeting from a jobless Ake slave. Go and clean the hallway and stairs. My friends would pass on the way to bathroom. I
Fine.
I cleaned as she ordered. Then one of her friends, Wendy Pope, poked her head out into the hallway and asked,
Hey, Betty, who's that cleaning?
Oh yeah, her. She's my daughter-in-law. Has she done some wrong to you?
Not at all. She looks very eager.
Eager? No way. She had to be ordered clean by me.
Wendy was a name I had heard quite Betty. I continued to polish the hallways, feeling my face burning with shame at the thought of exposing my abomination friends. Seeing me like that, Wendy asked again.
Hey, Betty, how long are you going to do that?
Until it becomes immaculate and it arrives.
But it's like,
Don't worry, Wendy. She's more like a daughter-in-law.
As soon as she mentioned the word tea fell silent, while everyone seemed to be taken at look down and started yelling at me, probably because of my status.
How useless are you?
But Betty,
Don't you dare call me by my name, Skin! One,
I'm sorry.
I didn't understand why I was being this way in front of her friends. Then Wendy rushed toward us and slapped Betty's cheek. At that second, the status of Betty switched. Betty was trembling from shock and
what did you do that for?
screamed at Wendy with a burning face. Wendy calmly answered,
I'm disappointed in you. I thought we were good friends.
So why did you slap me?
Who's the savage? You mistreat the person who saved my terribly.
Saved your life?
Betty stared at her in disbelief. I was completely lost when Wendy smiled and said, You're in the right place.
It's been a long time. You're the right. Do you remember me?
I'm sorry, but have we met before?
It's been a few years. You saved me at the train station.
She was the one I assisted on a placement while back. I remember giving first aid to her who was unconscious at the time and calling for an ambulance while frantically talking to her. Supposed she remembered the whole thing. She must be vaguely remembered my fey voice. Can you please edit the following for spelling and grammar mistakes? And maybe ask the hospital about the procedure. I'd never imagined that I was going her again in such a circumstance. I was surprised, but Wendy happily CC her story.
I thank you so much for your help. I still remember you holding my hand talking to me until the paramedics.
I'm so glad that you made it.
I owe it to you. I've been hoping to thank you but I never imagined you were in such a condition.
Her words prompted the other friends to coldly stare at Betty. When Betty noticed, her face went white immediately. Desperately trying to regain her position, she raised her voice.
No, no, no. Don't take it wrong. Slave, but she initiated it on her W. I'm not a princess, and I've never told her to be one.
No matter how hard she tried to adjust for herself, no one believed her any longer. Wendy lashed out at her.
You're the worst kind to treat this honorable woman in such a terrible way. She is the wife of your precious son, isn't she? Yet you call her a slave? You have no compassion.
Wait, Wendy. I don't mean to.
Then how do you mean? I remember her thriving and glowing of life back then. And now she looks so pained. I have no doubt that you took the life of. Apologize to her now. What are you waiting for?
Betty cried as she was scolded by Wendy, and then apologized resentfully to me. The birthday party was a mess after. Everyone changed the way they looked up Betty. Discovering her true nature, they won. Wendy stayed back and explained the whole ordeal to Ken and my father-in-law. All the facts came out, and Betty's was exposed. My father-in-law was outraged and demanded a divorce.
Get out of here now.
He scolded Betty, who was crying frantically. It had become an uncontrollable chaos. My father-in-law hired a divorce lawyer the next day, and Betty was kicked out of the house. She'd been a penniless housewife and home and family at once. What kind of life she was going to then on? I didn't want to imagine how miserable it was going to be, but I had no sympathy for her. She had planted the seeds on her own. As for me, I still live with Ken and my father-in-law. I'm working once again and living a fulfilling life. Ken still seems to be remorseful. He must be feeling pretty responsible because he often speaks to me with expressions.
I'm really sorry, honey, about my mistake.
Let it go now. I got to meet Wendy.
By the way, are you going to dinner soon?
Yeah, she's taking me to her favorite restaurant.
Well then, let me pay for it.
Yes. Thank you, hon.
Wendy and I became good friends after that incident. I never thought that what I was doing back then would be so helpful, would turn around and come back in a good way. I'm assured now that my way of life wrong. With this in mind, I will live on.